see the power of the federal government in the Rivers matter, where the IG withdrew police from a place and people went around burning houses, burning places. And so today, out of hypocrisy, we're going to sit back and begin to blame people when we know that, look, the entire security structure of the country, majorly still lies in the hand of the president. Yes, we understand the governors have a role, but how substantial, how big is their role compared to the past? Vested in the hand of the president and the commander-in-chief of the federal forces. So, look, we'll continue to discuss this here and raise this pertinent issue. So that it's not about sentiment, really. We have a problem, we have to realize we have a problem, and work out a solution. There's a problem in the north, and I see people think, oh, it's a northern problem. No! I just told you that about 3,000 megawatts of electricity is generated from the northern region. Out of how many megawatts, really? See?
4,000. Well,
so if there's a problem in most of those areas, it's going to affect everybody. The idea of having sub-regional grids is not something that will happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Those are long-term solutions or medium-term solutions. And I always say that when we call medium-term solutions or long-term solutions, it cannot be applicable to an immediate problem. Since we came up with the new electricity act, how many states have domesticated the sage? How many states? Nobody's even doing anything in that regard, actually. So whatever Mr. Adelabu is saying, yes, it's the right thing to do. Unbundle the national grid, house of regional grids, domesticate the electricity act. I agree, but said those are things that will not happen immediately. So what are the immediate solutions to the problem we have? Can you now see why it is very important for us to pay serious attention to the issue of insecurity in Nigeria? It affects everything. The farmers cannot go to farm now. The power infrastructure in the country is threatened. Businesses are threatened because people cannot move interstate at night. Even daytime, they are afraid to move. And here we are, we continue to deflect on the real issues. We begin to look for who to blame, to excuse. People will think our political people. Whereas the real issue is that, look, Mr. President in his manifesto, maybe these so-called supporters who are not deflected on the issue need to go and read the manifesto of Mr. President on what he said he was going to do about security. How far has he been able to do that? Those are the questions.
Fred, the story tells us further that a former TCN official described the company as a major bottleneck, and I'm talking about the TCN, and insisted that attributing the country's power failure solely to vandalism overlooks deeper structural problems. According to him, TCN's weak network and inadequate maintenance are fundamental issues that require urgent attention, adding that the agency is investing in projects that are not a priority. He says, and I quote, "One corridor collapsing should not plunge the north into darkness." He argued, emphasizing that the grid's fragility reflects broader systemic failure rather than mere security lapses. So there's a former TCN official that is telling us that the fact that they're attributing this total blackout to vandalism is rather suspicious. Even if there is a corridor collapse, it's not enough to plunge an entire region into darkness. So there are many systemic problems with the TCN as an agency, and they need to start fixing the TCN if we're serious about power restoration in the north and generally in the country.
So, we've always discussed the entire power sector value chain in Nigeria.
Right.
And on the three levels, the weakest of the link is the transmission end, which is the midpoint.
And is run by the government. That's the
run by the government.
Right.
And you know that anything, government business is no man's business in Nigeria. Do it anyhow. That's the way we do government business in Nigeria. Government business is no man's business. It can be done anyhow. Nobody pays attention to anything. Nobody commits to anything. Just do it anyhow. And at the end of the day, it's just more about corruption. How people can enrich themselves. So nobody commits to anything because there are really no standards when it comes to performance index of anything run by government in Nigeria, which is really very unfortunate, actually. So if you look at what we have, I agree that, look, vandalism cannot be the sole problem, the sole reason why we also have this disruption in the power sector. As we speak, the entire generation, what we have still been able to generate, is not as bad as the fact that, look, even the little we are generating the load cannot be carried by the transmission structure we have. That's the problem. So because when the load comes, say, and that one cannot carry, the collapses, it bounces back, and then the destruction happens. The disco dancers are also there with their own problems too. Say, musicians are also there with their own problems as we speak. So if you look at the entire value chain, it's a complete mess as we speak.
Well,
and unfortunately, the solutions are not things that can happen immediately.
Yeah, right.
We need serious investment. When I say serious investment, a lot of money, real money, has to go into broadening the grid and creating a more sustainable power structure for the country. Where are the money going to come from? Do we even have the money now? If we have the money, are we going to see serious commitment to the user use of the fund to solving the problem? That's also another issue. The expertise, the technical know-how is also one other issue. The politics, again, of power in Nigeria. People don't know that there are political considerations to the issue of power in Nigeria. Do we have the willpower? Do we have the commitment to not, consider anything political in this entire conversation of the crisis we have in the power sector? So it again, is not a thing that just happened. So we're not going to blame the current government solely for the problem we have in the power sector. That would be unfair to do, actually. The problem has been there for years. Even right from, before 1999. Remember that even Buhari was saying it. The so-called $16 billion allegedly spent under Obasanjo's regime. What did we get from it? Yar'Adua came, Jonathan came, Buhari came 8 years. Here we are, running almost 2 years now. The same story. I don't know, it's very unfortunate.
Fred, in a developing or in a related story, pardon me, also on the front page of The Guardian, we have lost income to 5 months blackout by also residents. MSMEs lament. This is a different headline.
5 months blackout.
Yes, as the ongoing electricity blackout enters its 5th month in Bayelsa State, businesses and residents have decried the situation, saying that life and businesses are under siege. The situation has brought untold hardship to residents who have to rely on generating sets to fuel their homes and businesses. With the current cost of fuel, they say they can no longer afford to feed or buy fuel at the same time. Residents in Bayelsa have been without electricity since June, following the destruction of 13 out of the 16 transmission towers along the Ahuada-Yenogwa 132 kilovolts transmission line by vandals. And this is a phenomenal challenge for us, and it is worse for our members who use boilers, which use a lot of energy, and some particular production processes use energy, and so if they rely on providing their energy to generators, they cannot supply the market at a competitive price. This is what the chairman, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Kaduna Southeast, Raymond Ayawu, has said regarding the blackout fraud. This individual, the chairman, is telling us that many manufacturers have shut down their businesses because they cannot afford to fuel their generating set, especially for those who use electricity or high energy for their production processes. It's too expensive. And so how much products can they put out there, and how much would they price these products at the end of the day?
The purchasing power of the people and
Exactly. So I had to take the story to reiterate a point you made, that a lot of people might think this is a problem for the north, but I'm telling you that it would spread like wildfire across the other regions if it is not
employment will grow
in the board.
Businesses are going to collapse. So it's like I said, look, when it comes to the issue of insecurity, we have to see it as a national emergency. I see people who are a bit delusional about the issue, thinking, it's a New problem. No! It's not like when you say insecurity in the Middle East does not really concern you.
No, sorry for oil prices, which affects us. So
when Ukraine started, we thought that we could concern the Russians.
Until oil prices went up.
And they told us that wheat is coming from that part. So how much more a part of the country I think it does not concern you, and then you want to be looking for people to blame rather than addressing the issue the way it should be addressed. You want to come up with hypocrisy again because of political considerations on a matter that we should all collectively say this is the problem and find solutions to it. So again, I look at the price of manufacturers now, say it. I look at the price of manufacturers. Where do we go from here? Where exactly do we go from here? Because as people, the alternative source, where is the alternative going to come from? And unfortunately, if you're going to invest heavily, you're going to invest billions of naira in alternative source of power. How much are you going to produce the product? What's going to be the pricing? Also putting into consideration that, look, the purchasing power of the people has gone down. Look, manufacturers are saying now that, look, products are staying too long on the shelves. They can't produce enough, so where's the profit margin going to come from? So it's really, really very unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate. And that's why we keep talking about the trade policies of this particular administration. Why they are supposed to have been a sequence where it should have been a bit more methodical. Because at the end of the day, Nigeria has its own peculiarities. And look, when you come up with policies, when it comes to the other World Bank prescriptions, these Bretton Woods institutions that come with all manner of things, you've got to look at your own local problems and apply your own homegrown solutions to it, or else you're going to run into trouble. Look at what the other people are saying nowadays. The other constitutional people have put out a statement that they think this is a deliberate affront on the economy of the North. They're already bringing anything dimension to the conversation. The 19 northern governors too have met, and they've also issued a statement. In fact, the first thing they said was that, look, all of the tax reform initiative of this administration is a no-no for them, because they think it will further impoverish the people of the North. You understand what I'm saying? That, look, because they understand that, look, the economy of the North is not strong enough to withstand the so-called elitist idea that's coming from this government. You don't say they have said it. People said, oh, when he was the governor of Lagos State, he came with all of these reforms, he was able to increase IGR. Yes, Lagos could have been able to withstand all of those elitist capitalist policies because Lagos is Lagos. But look, the other states cannot be compared to Lagos, and you have to be careful to think that what Lagos was able to withstand, others will be able to withstand. Wait. It's a different idea completely when it comes to using the same thing for all parts of the country.
The same formula for different problems.
The same formula may not necessarily work, say, because the indices are different.
Right. Well, that story is on page 6 and page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. You forgive us for spending this much time on that story. I dare say that is the most significant issue on our hand at this time. We cannot have parts of the country in total darkness. The economic consequences far outweigh the way we're talking about it here. But then if you like details of that particular story, check page 6 and page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. They're both related stories. This is state trends in the papers on mainland 98.3 FM. I'm Sage Babalola. Side is here, and he's analyzing the stories as we are dishing them out from the front pages of our dailies. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. I've seen some of your comments. Keep the comments coming through. When it's time to take public opinion, I will refer back to these comments. Now, moving forward, still on the front page of the Guardian, we have the headline here: CJN NJC launch probe into conflicting judgment on Rivers dispute. The writers to the story: FHC Chief Judge asked to explain state cases held in Abuja. 𝐾𝐾 highlights need for judicial independence in governance. Rivers Judicial Inquiry summons Wike allies over post-election violence. FCT Minister reaffirms support for local council autonomy. Rivers APC condemns alleged move to halt council allocation, labels it civilian coup. So we have the story here that judges of the federal and state high court involved in issuing conflicting rulings in political cases affecting Rivers State are now officially under investigation by a National Judicial Council panel. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, met with the NJC panel yesterday in her office and directed that the investigation report be completed by the end of the week. The CJN initiated the probe independently, responding to public concerns about the apparent inconsistencies in court rulings. Prominent lawyer Femi Falana, one of the involved legal representatives, sent a letter to the Chief Judge last Friday, questioning why originating cases in Port Harcourt are being held in Abuja instead in the Port Harcourt division, which has 5 judges on its bench. Falana raised concerns about allegations that judgment may be influenced or procured in Abuja. Although the justices have defended the decision to have these cases in Abuja, that because of the conflict or the violence in some of these states, like Rivers, for example, it might be risky to have their judicial officers try the case in Port Harcourt, which is why some of these things are taken to Abuja. Also, there's been conversations about why a high court would give a judgment, a federal court will give a different judgment, and they're paying a lot of attention on River State specifically and all the conflicting judgments and the stay of summons, amongst many other things. What do you think about this move by Tʀᴇɪᴅs, at least to bring some sanity to the judicial system?
We'll have to wait. We'll have to wait to see what intervention would bring, because it has become very embarrassing. See, because again, we're not talking about locational advantage. It's about location now.
Right.
Which court do you go to? Which is not ridiculous. That we're now discussing locations when it comes to administration of justice. Well, the law is supposed to be the law, irrespective of location.
Right.
But what do you have, for example, in the Rivers matter? The same thing is happening in Kano.
Yes.
See, so in Rivers matter now, when those lower to Yᴏᴜᴛᴜ want to get a judgment, they go to the federal high court in Abuja. They get all manner of ex parte order, they get all manner of judgment. It's always a one-way thing when it's in Abuja. And then when the people in the state want to get something, they go to the state high court and they get their own. Whereas the federal high court also in Rivers State, yes, there were times when there were issues with safety of the judges, but I think most of these cases could have been aired in Port Harcourt and provide the necessary protection for these judges. But at the end of the day, so we be talking about location when it comes to judgments and the whole of justice.
The law should be the law regardless of geographical location.
It's a mess. It's a mess. Look at what is happening in Kano too. Because look, apart from even the issue of location, why do we have courts making different pronouncements on the same matter? This one says this, the next minute the other people go to another court. It's a complete mess, a desecration of the judiciary. And whether anybody likes it or not, immediately we lose it all at the level of the judiciary. What is left? It's anarchy we are calling for. Every other thing can fail. Every other thing can fail. But immediately we fail when it comes to the issue of administration of justice, to the point where people no longer believe in our courts or the judiciary. Then what is left? Because at the end of the day, the major fundamental of what democracy is based on is the issue of the rule of law. So when it comes to the point where, look, it becomes a banana republic to the extent that nobody believes anything that comes from the court, what is left of the nation? So let's see what Madam CJN will be able to do on this particular, and it's not just in Rivers State. Look at Kano. The same thing is playing out in Kano State. Look at even the judgments, the judgments and counter judgments that happened on the local government election in Kano State. The same thing is happening now. To the extent that, look, the same scenario is playing out. People are now going to court to ensure that local government are seized in the two states. And whether you like it or not, you see that you tell yourself the truth or not, we know where all this is coming from. We know what the intentions are. We know what they are driving at. But at the end of the day, what we are saying is that, look, if we are not careful, if we don't really tell our politicians to behave themselves, and please tell us, the agony of losing the judiciary to their shenanigans, we are calling for anarchy.
Well, that particular story you will find on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Very briefly, we have this headline here. Presidency chides Obasanjo for criticizing Tinubu. We have ex-president's criticism hallmark of envy, bitterness, says Yoruba group. Atiku Obasanjo meet in Abuja. Yoruba group. The presidency has accused...
I want to know the name of the group.
I don't know their name. I don't know. Just say Yoruba group. Anyways, because there's so many groups, honestly, I'm losing track. The presidency has accused former President Olusegun Obasanjo of making unfounded claims that President Bola Tinubu came into office without a plan. In response, Senior Special Assistant to President Tinubu on Media and Publicity, Temitope Ajayi, said the so-called planless president is actively implementing economic reforms that Obasanjo himself initiated and abandoned midway through his tenure. He said that one of Obasanjo's key objectives was the complete regulation of the downstream oil sector, a goal he ultimately failed to achieve due to opposition from organized labor and civil society group. Ajayi said the former president only managed to increase fuel prices 4 times throughout his 2 terms in office, rather than implement the comprehensive reform he envisioned. Fred, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I found the name of the group for you. Conscience of Yoruba.
All this chop group.
Conscience of Yoruba Nation. They've lashed out on the former president.
Conscience of Yoruba Nation.
But please, that's the list of my problems right now. Honestly, I don't know.
I want to conscience of Yoruba Nation. You are Yoruba. They are talking for you.
Yeah, they're them savvy.
They are your conscience.
They are them savvy. Please. I have common sense. I have common sense. I pick common sense over whatever conscience their conscience. Look at what has been said very briefly, so we can move to other stories. Now we have Tèmítọ́pẹ́ here. Tèmítọ́pẹ́ Ajayi, the senior special assistant to the president, that is talking about comparing the former president Obasanjo and this recent administration. She said first of all that the former president was unable to deregulate the downstream oil sector, right?
Yeah.
And also we saw an increase of pump price of PMS 4 times increase on that former president Olusegun Obasanjo, and it worries me that this comparison is rather funny, because the exact same thing is sort of playing out. Although they claim to have deregulated the downstream oil sector, for the NNPC just a few months ago still released something of a price template, right? Can we release a price template for a deregulated sector? I don't know if there's something I don't know that I'm missing here. And we've seen fuel price increase at least 3 times as well in the past few months. So what comparison is going on here for it?
Well, I always talked about the problem of perception. You believe what you want to believe, and you accept what you want to accept, really. So when it comes to this conversation of whether this President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came into power with a plan or not, I'm sure we cannot all agree. We'll always have divergent opinions. We'll always disagree. But like I've always said, Sage, opinions may differ. Right? Opinions may differ. But the fact is the fact. The fact is always sacrosanct. The fact is that, look, the president came in with a promise. Right? I'm not going to go into all of these technicalities of whether it's regulated or not. Because if the president had a plan before coming into power, we have to look at what he's doing now to what he promised. Because in between what he promised and what he's doing now, we'll know whether he had a plan or not. Have you said?
Yes.
When you talk about plan, we have to check before he came into power what he was saying. And now when he's in power, what he's doing. In between that two, you know whether the president has a plan or not. What was the promise before he gets into power? Say it.
He would reduce the pump price of PMS, and there will be no strikes anymore in the education sector. There will be no fuel scarcity. And then we also had the NNPC man himself saying by 2024 will be net exporters of petroleum products. Yes.
Good. So what do we have now?
None of the above.
So can we now agree on the conversation of plan or no plan? It seems nothing. Look, I look at Mr. Barrow, don't look at like, what are you saying?
He's doing his job. He's doing his job.
Anyways, you do your job, but don't tell us stupid. You can't be peeing on my face and tell me it's raining. I'm not stupid. Plans are assessed based on what you said and what you are doing. And in between that conversation, you know whether the person has a plan or not. I'm not going to be one of the people that will accuse Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇʀ M쏘ɪᴟ and what he also did as president for 8 years. But we're talking about now. A lot of the misnomers that happened under the 8 years of President Obasanjo have been discussed severally. We said it. The fact that he also accounts for a lot of the problems we are facing now, that is well established. But in talking about now, it is difficult for anybody to convince Nigeria that the president actually had a plan. It's been all this trial by error. Do this today, do that tomorrow, policies are assault. It's been inconsistent. Look, Those are the facts. And what I'm saying is that look, we're not going to go to, they will tell you that you regulated, blah, blah, blah. Look, there's always a methodology to policy implementation, say. If both of us say we are going to Ibadan, say, does it mean we are going to Ibadan the same way? At the end of the day, you might decide to use the road. I might decide to use the road. Somebody else might decide to use bicycle. But because you all say we are all going to Ibadan, does not mean your approach is going to be the same. The methodology will not be the same. What you are also going to do when we get to Ibadan may not even be the same. So everybody said they will deregulate. Everybody said they will remove subsidy. How? I remember saying during the campaign, I was shouting that all of these people making these vague blanket statements, we have not been able to probe them enough to ask the how part of the conversation. How are you going to do it? Here we are now. At the end of the day now, we are now at a point where we have moved from Amagbewale to either you buy at 1,000 or you go and use CNG. A CNG that is not available. And then somebody will come and convince me now that there was a plan. How?
Fouad, we actually have to move very fast away from that story. I guess we can make it one of the subject matters that we emphasize on during Mainland Focus. But briefly, let's read the rest of the headlines as we have less than 2 minutes to round off conversations here. Still on the front page of The Guardian, we have here, Obaseki says future extension workers will emerge from Agric College, is on page 7. We also have on page 4, Abbas seeks equal citizenship for foreigners married to Nigerian women. As the Senate is doing all it can to ensure inclusion of women, we're also seeing a bill that would probably be pushed to allow for foreign men married to Nigerian women able to claim Nigerian citizenship as it is with men.
Marry foreign men. What are local men?
For this story is on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper, and that is all we have for you for Guardian newspaper. For Punch, we have federal government invites union as strike ground universities. The no work, no pay dispute. SANU and NASU leaders enforce strike across universities. NANS asks federal government to resolve crisis, is on page 7. We also have here, Ghana eyes fuel import from Dangote refinery. Well, yes, sir. He's already exporting to Europe, especially because
it's easy, really, like putting it into West Africa and all that.
So if Ghana is able to afford his commodity, by all means, it's a private enterprise. But that story is on page 30 of the Punch. We also have here, Northern governors opposes Tinubu's planned tax reform. Fouad hinted on that story earlier. On page 53 of the Punch newspaper, we have here, federal government needs 19 trillion naira to complete 2,604 roads. This is according to Works Minister Umahi. It's on page 53 as well. And finally, on page 59, we have ground rent. FCT issues Tinubu Akume, ex-governor's 2-week ultimatum. So they are owing ground rent for property owners, especially for those in the FCT, and they've been given 2 weeks to pay their ground rent. And it's funny that the president is amongst those listed to be owing ground rent. Well, he'll pay his money. Anyways, that's all the stories we have for you this morning on the front pages of our dailies. Thank you so much for coming along with us. We'll take a brief commercial break. Yes, is Fouad? Is it 30? Is it 30? Is it 30? When we come back from the break, we'll go to Mainland Focus. This is where we pick 1 or 2 stories and flesh it out even further and give you an opportunity to opine on the matters as well. I'm Sage Babalola. Thank you for your time. Don't go away. The Morning Express continues. 8:40. We'll be back for more conversations.